Good evening. This is my case study for EDL 853, Module 8, and I'm April Levitt. First of all, a summary for Get This Child Out of My Room. The case study takes place in Schuyler Comprehensive School, which is a kindergarten through 12th grade school in a rural school district. The school district includes 16 schools, and they share resources, including the administration and support staff. Carl is a student at Schuyler, and he's been previously diagnosed with a behavior disorder, but his behavior is becoming much more aggressive. The parents are recently divorced, which might be causing this aggression. Nancy, his general education teacher, is a 10-year veteran teacher, but she's feeling unsafe, frustrated, and ultimately wants Carl to be removed from the classroom. Susan, who is a newly graduated special education teacher, does not believe that the behavior warrants removal and has come up with a plan that when he displays aggressive behavior, he will be removed from the classroom. While making this plan, she sought advice from the district special education coordinator and approval from the superintendent. At the IEP meeting, they adjusted the accommodations to meet the new plan, and after which Susan went in and did some observations and noticed that there wasn't any identifying trigger for Carl's behavior, but she does believe that the adults in his life seem to be too busy to work with him. Problem identification and analysis. What do I know? I know that this is a rural district. I know that they have to share resources and supervision is limited. I know that this is a third grade student and the student is becoming aggressive. This is likely due to the divorce that's just recently happened. There isn't a trigger, it seems, that has been identified yet. Also, an important aspect is that the student doesn't understand his own behavior. His current IEP plan is not working, and the IEP plan and diagnosis does not indicate any intellectual behavior issues, or I'm sorry, any intellectual issues. So it is just a purely behavior plan. The special education teacher is within her first year. She's newly graduated. And the general education teacher, who is a veteran, wants the student out. She's scared and doesn't understand that the student doesn't meet the qualifications to be pulled from class. So because of that diagnosis and because of the plan that the special education teacher has come up with, there's tension between those two teachers. And also know that because of that first meeting, it does seem like the parents are agreeable and wanting to work with the school on Carl's behavior. What do I need to know? I need to know why the student's having outbursts. Maybe there's an underlying issue. Could it be due to living arrangements? Is he living at mom's? Is he living at dad's? Is one of those, or the transfer between the two, causing him to trigger? Or are there other underlying reasons that are causing this trigger? Does the student have any coping skills? Has he been taught how to handle his behavior? And if so, what has he been taught? Is the behavior happening outside of the classroom? Is it happening in SPED? Is it happening in specials? Is it happening at recess? What other places is this aggressive behavior happening, if at all? What relationship does the teacher have with the student? Is there one? Right now, it doesn't seem like there is. So I would just need to dig deeper at that relationship. Who within the district would be available to work with the student? What other resources can you pull in? Is there a teacher that he might identify with and have a relationship that might be an incentive for him and his behavior, or someone that he can talk to within the school? What was the previous IEP goal and data? And what were the perspective of the teachers, previous teachers that he has had? How did they handle any behavior? Did he have outbursts like he is having now? And what was that medical diagnosis that would help perhaps understand the situation better? Problem identification and analysis. So the problem that's identified is that the student has experienced trauma. He's going through a crisis right now in his life, which is causing him to escalate, disrupting the class, making the environment for the teacher as well as the students unsafe, and the current IEP plan is not working. The general education teacher and the special education teacher, they're not on the same page. The teacher wants the student removed. However, the special education teacher doesn't feel that is necessary or is in the child's best interest. Also, resources are limited, which can also be a problem in order to meet that child's needs. Proposed plan of action as well as strategies for implementation. Well, first of all, I would need to coordinate a time for the special education and general education teacher to meet to discuss why the student can't be removed, and also discuss, get collaboration and just kind of get those two teachers on the same page and understand one another and their perspectives. Have them plan a time to meet daily, whether it's just a pop in, hey, how's Carl doing today? How's his plan working? What's the data going on? Or if it's weekly, just have them be able to touch base so that they can discuss that student and work together at helping that student be successful. Collect and evaluate the data on the times when the student escalates and must be removed, perhaps collecting the data about what are the assignments, what's happening in class, what's happening outside of class, to evaluate that to determine any commonalities. Collaborate with anyone available, the psychologist, the counselor, the behavior specialist, to determine any times that they can work with the student and his emotions so that he can get a better feel for them, understand them, and discuss implementing a coping strategy training for him so that he can self-regulate. If he starts to understand, hey, I'm getting frustrated right now, I'm starting to escalate, what are some steps that he can do in order to de-escalate? Maybe that's taking a lap around the library. Maybe that's running an errand for the teacher, something to help him be able to get himself back to where he needs to be able to keep everyone safe. Creating a behavior plan on the positive reward system that also focuses on the strategies, not necessarily how many times he's coming out of the classroom or how many times he's staying in the classroom, but rather focuses on a positive reward on, is he using the strategies? Is he able to identify within himself that he's getting frustrated? And then once he identifies with that, is he using a strategy to de-escalate? If that's happening, that's where the reward comes in, using those strategies to be able to self-regulate himself. Relationship building, so help the teacher build a relationship with the student so that that student can feel safe, supported within the classroom, whether it be at lunch, before school, after school. What are some times that they can do, and what are some things that they can do to build that relationship? Contact parents to adjust the IEP to reflect the revised accommodations with the counselor, with the behavior specialist, with the coping strategy, and also social stories to help him create stories to help him understand what is acceptable and what is unacceptable as far as displaying his actions and emotions in society. Build and discuss a plan and goals, and continue to collect the data and analyze that data to help best support the student within the classroom. What is the resolution? Promoting success of all students. So the resolution would be that the student least restrictive environment is within the classroom with those accommodations. His diagnosis doesn't include academics. So his best learning environment would be within the classroom, not within the resource room. It doesn't fit his needs. Helping Nancy and the others understand the laws and the least restrictive environment and why it's important for him to be in there with the accommodations that are set in place. And also help Nancy feel safe. Give her the support so that she does feel supported, safe, and that all of the other students are safe within the classroom. Created an action plan for removal so that when he does become aggressive, that there is a plan to remove the student to keep everybody else safe in their learning environment. Help the student learn self-regulation for the safety of himself and others, and then a behavior plan that focuses on positive incentives as well as those positive incentives linked to him using strategies to be able to self-regulate. problem reflection, and unidentified issues. So what was I feeling? What was my reaction to the problem? The first thing I felt was empathy for the student and the parents. This is a hard time. They're all going through trauma. They're all going through this crisis, and that student doesn't know what to do and how to handle his emotions. And I know that the parents have a hard time with that as well, with knowing what to do with Carl when he's feeling that way. So I did feel empathy for everyone involved. I did value the teacher and identify with that teacher. I've always worked in a Title I school where there's a lot of students with trauma that are going through similar things and have displayed similar behaviors within the classroom. I've had to evacuate my classroom. I've had students tear my room apart and be frustrated and show those behaviors. So identify with that teacher and understand where she's coming from. I also felt concerned because of the teacher's reaction. It seems like this teacher didn't give Carl much of a chance. Doesn't seem like there was a relationship built. And if she let this behavior, why did she let this behavior go as long as it did without asking for help? The first time there was aggression showed within that classroom, that's a big red flag that something's going on with this kid, and help is needed. I was concerned about the available support for Carl to make him successful or to help him be successful. And then I valued this special ed teacher. She's new. It's easy to get buffaloed as a new teacher, and she stuck to her guns and valued inclusion. So I valued what she did and how she asked for help and how she stuck to her guns with keeping Carl within the classroom. Unidentified issues. Something that I still question is, what have the previous teachers experienced with that student? How have they handled it? How do the rest of the teachers within the school feel about cases like this? Do they understand the laws? Do they understand least restricted environment and that students can't be taken out of the classroom? And how have the cases like this been handled in the past? Did the previous special education teacher just pull students? If so, where did they go? How did they support that student and their learning? And has there been trauma training within the school? If there's behaviors like this happening within the school, there's obviously trauma going on. So teachers need to be taught what that means, what that looks like, and how to handle it within their classroom. What does data show regarding the behavior of the student? So looking at past data, looking at the data now, what is that showing? And is it actually impacting his academics, this behavior? And then what medical diagnosis was the student given to begin with? That might give a clue as to what's going on with this student and his emotions. How did I promote academic success? Well, academic success won't work if there is social and emotional issues. So addressing that social and emotional well-being of the student will help promote that academic success, as will collaboration with all involved, with inclusion of the student, helping him stay within the classroom, and then establishing a plan for that student's removal if it becomes aggressive, so that everyone else besides Carl in that classroom can have academic success. They have to make sure that the whole class is feeling safe and successful when there's a student with behavior issues within the classroom. How did I promote personal well-being? Well, helping the student understand his feelings is huge, and then help him promote self-regulation so that he has the tools to identify his emotions and being able to cope with them in an appropriate manner. Communication with the parents, coordination between anyone that's available with the psychologist, the counselor, the behavior specialist, anyone that's involved that can help Carl and his personal well-being. Plan for those positive reinforcements that focus on him using strategies and coping skills and focusing on that he's using them positively rather than focusing on the consequences. And then, of course, a plan for removal so that everyone else is feeling safe, the class, his peers within the classroom, the teacher, that their well-being is also promoted and safe. How did this enhance the instructional capacity within the classroom? Anytime there's collaboration, it helps instructional capacity. So helping all of the teachers get together can help guide their instruction. Providing the trauma training so that everyone can understand why children are acting this way, and how to handle it within the classroom, communicating the IEP laws, but also communicating the IEP goals for that student so that the teacher knows what needs to be done within the classroom to make that student successful. And then also being available to support the special ed as well as the general ed teacher so that they both feel heard, so that they both feel supported and successful within their jobs. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to watching and learning from all of your slides.